Next, I've got Walter Isaacson going to moderate a really great session on innovation and education. And certainly, Walter doesn't need much introduction either. He's the chairman and president and CEO of the Aspen Institute. He's been the CEO of CNN and the editor of Time Magazine. He's also a best-selling biographer. So please help me welcome Walter.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, our session right now is on something that keeps coming up in our conversation, which is education and how innovation and technology are going to transform it. I think it's a useful topic. If Ben Franklin came back today and walked into a classroom, he'd say, oh yeah, that's exactly how we did it. That's exactly what we made. A teacher stands there and gives a little lecture and 24 kids are sitting around. It's the one major sector of our lives that have not been totally transformed by the digital revolution. And I think we're at an inflection point. It's about to happen, whether it was MIT and Harvard joining up for edX, the way Stanford has already been doing for higher education, or what's happening in the K through 12 classroom. Starting with you, Bill, you've written about 4 or 5 things that are going to be transformative, but let me start with the first one you talked about, which is reimagining textbooks. How do you think that's going to change and make personalized education?
Well, if you get pervasive digital devices, very cheap tablets, and pervasive internet connection, then one can imagine eliminating the paper-based textbook. And an interactive textbook is a very different thing. In fact, the boundary between quiz, lecture, textbook is basically eviscerated. You can track the student, bring in a video, ask them a few questions to keep them engaged. And the invention of what that multimedia educational thing, call it the future textbook, but it's really all those things brought together. We're in the process of figuring out what that is right now, and there's a lot of innovators, for-profit, non-profit innovators who are participating in that.
Mm-hmm. I was at Sci and Math Academy in our hometown of New Orleans, where Sal and I come from, run by some Teach for America Corps members, and there are no textbooks. They just have curriculum, and the teacher's up there on a dashboard saying, oh, these 2 students don't understand that X and Y are different, and these 2... how do you think there'll be just a totally disruptive transformation of how we do curricula, or do you think textbooks will then just be put in digital form?
Well, we want to be a little conservative about this because, in a sense, every time something new comes along, they say education will change. Textbooks came along, anybody could read them. We got TV sets, we got videotape, we got computer-aided instruction. And so far, technology, at least in the classroom, has had absolutely no effect. So the issues of motivation, why should I learn this, am I the person who's good at this, there's so much complex human motivation in the learning process that to say that just to mechanize the pieces, like, okay, just click on the lecture, we don't need the lecture, the actual usage of things like MIT OpenCourseWare is mind-blowing for one reason. Basically, nobody uses it. I mean, take the very best Walter Lewin physics course, which is the 3rd one up there. About 3,000 people have gone through the thing. And it's free, it's fantastic, I love the guy. But there's no market for people at home at night saying, oh yeah, how do those wave equations work? Without a job, a degree. Mm-hmm. So far, this whole, hey, it's online, therefore it'll be utterly different. There's been as many failures as successes. Now, I think some of the stuff that Saul and Brewer are involved in are going to be amazingly successful. So I do think this time is different.
So everybody talks about flipping the classroom, and you are the ones who've been successful at that so far. Explain how you think that's going to work.
Yeah, when you go to this reality, and it's been happening already, I mean, for us it's been kind of an inadvertent adventure, but you have this reality where students are going to a place and they're learning from videos and exercises and getting feedback. You start to realize, well, okay, they can all learn at their own pace now. And as soon as you make that one assumption, that every student can learn at their own pace, master concepts, then move on and kind of build a scaffold, it actually allows you to rethink every aspect of the education system. You no longer have to group kids by age-based cohorts. You no longer have to have a teacher in the front of the room giving a lecture. You no longer have to have all the desks pointed in the same direction. You no longer have to have teachers separate from each other. I have 20 students, you have 20 students, and we have no peer interaction. And so what we're seeing is, we started off as kind of a virtual thing for anybody out there to learn.
Actually, will you explain the story of how you started?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
my heart.
Yeah, New Orleans connection. I right after I got married, family from New Orleans was visiting me in Boston. I'm now in Northern California, and 12-year-old cousin, Nadia, having trouble with math, and I offered to tutor her, and a little, 2 years into it, word got around in the family, and I was tutoring about 15 cousins, and then I, famously a friend said, well, I was having trouble scaling myself. I had a day job, and he said, why don't you stick some lessons on YouTube? I said, no, that's for cats playing piano, not real math. But then I gave it a shot, and famously my cousins told me they liked me better on YouTube than in person.
Yes, right.
And so I kept going, and so the YouTube videos, there's a ton of them now. There's 6 million kids using it every month now. We're a team of 30 people now. But yeah, so and when we launched kind of in a big way and we started building our organization, we assumed this is just a supplemental thing out for kids anywhere to learn, or adult learners too. But then some school districts said, no, this is interesting to us. This is kind of true differentiated instruction. This could be a game changer.
And tell us what school districts have adopted it, and give me an example of how that's worked.
Yeah, so the most famously Los Altos in Silicon Valley, they're now district-wide, but it's been KIPP Prep, Summit Prep, a couple of other charter schools in Oakland. I think the one that's actually pushed the envelope the most is a Marlboro school in Los Angeles, which is really an elite girls' school. And what they did is, they said, yeah, no reason we have to do this Prussian model where all students learn at the same pace. And we're going to have a 7th through 12th grade girls all in the same classroom, all learning at their own pace. And if you visit one of these classrooms, there's a ton of peer-to-peer interaction. And what the teacher's doing, they're no longer the lecturer. They're doing one-on-one interactions. It's made the classroom more of an interactive or human experience.
Bror, what have you learned about how people learn, and how does that get applied? And maybe even do it, if you would, in an international context. So many people here from around the world. What have you learned from around the world of how different people learn things, and especially in your higher education and career training things at Kaplan? Tell us how that works.
What's great about working now at this intersection between education, technology, and actually learning science is that all of these things are now ready to go, ready to get something really done. And on the learning science side, a lot of the things that Saul is describing actually back up exactly what's being found when you look experimentally at how people actually learn. And there's been a lot of that work over the last 20, 30